Well, good evening. I think most of us know the most effective way that we pass on any kind of personal endorsement, if you say, is by referral. We live in a referral society, and it's because of the importance of relationships and our contacts. It's really how evangelism is supposed to work as well, if we use it properly. Working by referral is one of the things I learned in real estate. The understanding is that you want to do a good job for a client and make them happy, so what will happen? So they in turn will tell their friends. You hope that they will pass that experience along with them. Anybody that is in a business works on referral status. You tell someone else, and they in turn will possibly call upon you when they need that service. And in this case, it was being in real estate. It's really a simple concept to understand. Another example is for you ladies. If you like a certain hairstyle on someone and you made a comment on them, you may ask your friend where they got their hair done. It's a good way that they like the compliment. They are more than happy to share where they got that, and especially if you're kind of searching, looking for a new place. You may be new in town and may ask, where do you get your hair done? What doctor or dentist do you use? It may be if your car breaks down and immediately ask, what mechanic do you use? Where do I take this? Why do we ask this? Because if I trust you and you have possibly used them, I can take them and have the confidence to reach out and do the same. And it's so less intimidating than having to choose the eeny, meeny, miny route randomly in the yellow pages if you've ever had to do that. You couldn't find a referral. What do? Open up the yellow pages, and there's tons of advertisements, large, small, medium. How long have they been in business? And they try to entice you to use them, and we have some reservations. Well, I've never used them before. I don't know anybody else that's used them before. I'm really kind of taking a stab in the dark. I really don't know what's going to happen. I hope it all works out. You understand. If you move to a new area and you have children, it's very important to know what school you may want them to go to. Another thing being part of Lawton public schools, a lot of our military families do just that. They search online. They find out how schools, how well they do in the education. They've already kind of mapped that out. They kind of realize they're coming into a community, and they kind of want to know ahead of time. Probably our most favorite that we all enjoy with a smile on our face is probably food. That's our number one referral that we use today, and really plays a big factor on whether or not you want to decide to even try a restaurant out based on a referral from someone you know. I know as our town is continuing to grow, and the longer you live here, the new places that come and go and have opened up. And even with the new ones here, if they don't have really a franchise name that I'm not really aware of, I have some reservations about some places based on maybe someone else's experience. We immediately ask, how was the food? Was the food good? How about the service? Was it pricey? Was it worth it? All of this information so we can take action. We give out these referrals so easily and with excitement or displeasure if we have not had a good experience. On and on with all kinds of examples that you understand of how our society works with referrals. You get the idea. But with those examples fresh on our mind, how many times have you put your faith on referral? Now, that's going to vary from person to person. You may say, well, Eric, it's not much. Or it's a lot. I use it daily. Some, maybe not at all. And why? What's stopping us with the greatest referral we have? Our hope in Jesus Christ. Are we afraid to possibly say something that someone may be offended? Or maybe we are not living it as we should, perhaps. Someone may not like hearing it, and more reservations. That's interesting. We don't seem to worry about how much a referral is taken that we so boldly profess in any of these other examples. We're so excited to be in the know because someone says, where do you go for this? And you immediately respond, well, I better not tell them that. They may not like the answer I give them. There's only one stopping point in our referrals. We don't seem to do that with any of the other referrals unless it's not really an endorsement and something really didn't turn out right. And that's really kind of a negative referral. Well, I went to this place and really I had bad service and it was just a bad experience. And so then you picked up on the reservations as well. So then referring our faith, why is it mostly silence that speaks out about the hearts of people really on both sides of giving and receiving? Because for the most part, a lot of people don't ask, and we don't tell, and we don't share. This is my life, and that's their life, and we've all got all these notions of all these things about what we should say or cannot say or divulge, and so we get so much silent. Does your relationship with God mean something to you? That's really the bottom line of where I'm going with tonight. You may even be asked, where do you go to church? Or what do you believe? That's a little bit harder because most people don't really come out in conversations with that. They're moving into a town and they're kind of looking and they kind of know that you go to church and they see you leave your driveway. They may strike up a conversation and ask, but that is not something like where do you take your car? Where do you get your hair done? What food places do we need to find? But one thing is for sure, if it doesn't mean anything to you, that's what we talked about today, either having a religion or a relationship. And if you don't really have a meaningful relationship with Jesus Christ, if it really doesn't mean anything to you, it will never with anyone else. Think about it. How would it? How could it? If it has no impact in your life. See, that really is our starting point tonight. Do we feel God has truly done something in our lives? With us? For us? And do we see that in our lives? If not, this would be a good time to reflect internally and look for ways to see how God really is involved in my life. It's not by chance. It's not just spinning my wheels. Can I see it? Can I actually see our relationship grow? From where I was when I first started out as a Christian, with my prayer life, with my study life. I mean, how far is this relationship? Because it talks about a growing. It talks about a walking. It doesn't talk about a seed that was planted 50 years ago. It doesn't talk about a walk that was once walked and is now finished. It's continual until the day that we die. For some who struggle with the greatest of what God was given all of us, knowing all the things about even the hairs on our head, for a population into the billions, and then include that knowledge to everyone that has ever lived, to every sparrow that falls, or an ant that crawls, all of his infinite knowledge, he is not missing anything. And a lot of times, some people question that. They say, how could God really be wanting to be involved in my life? He's got God business to do. He's up there. He's up there taking care of the universe and taking care of all these important things and important subjects. How could he have time for me? But see, he does. We limit God's knowledge and power and all the rest of that to so much bigger things when he says, I will never leave you nor forsake you. That he is there when two or more are gathered in my name. I'm with you. Do we believe that he is here right now and not up there doing all of God business? That he certainly can't find time to fit me in his busy schedule? He can. Our doubts flood our mind. It's what some people, I'm sure, can think. Well, he's not there, and he is right here, right now. How sad that we limit God's power to only what we think can only be possible. That's why God says, your ways are not my ways, my thoughts are not your thoughts. We try to put God on our level of thinking. Nothing is impossible with God. It's a scripture that we read. And he told Abraham and Sarah that. And we as humans limit God's power, whether it be in that instance or even Jesus raising a loved one from the dead, as Mary and Martha did. He said, you're too late. We know you're all healing. We know, this is the creator of the universe, speaking things in existence, and you're now going to limit. No wonder, and there's a lot of reasons why you say, and Jesus sighed. The shortest version, Jesus wept, the shortest verse in the Bible. So I've contemplated that a lot. There's a lot of things that he could have been emotional and cried for. One is for the loss of his friend, sure. To feel the compassion that the family did, sure. But could it also be, how long do I have to be with you for you to know who I really am? He questioned that to the disciples. I mean, in all humility, I am the creator. I mean, I can do anything. And when someone has been dead for 3 days, we're going to even limit Jesus' power of whether or not he could raise someone from the dead, or to conceive a child way past childbearing years, as Sarah did. I know God has said that he loves us and will never leave us or forsake us. And I can see that truly in my life, time and time again. That's why it's good to hear that verse. It says, count your many blessings, name them one by one. Why? So you can see all what the Lord has done. It's supposed to be a reflection. So we don't lose those, oh yeah, well, I really was fortunate. I sure did luck out. We always use those words. And other people say, well, I've been blessed. God has certainly blessed me more than what I deserve. And even in persecution, I am still to be ready to give a reason, to give an answer of why I have hope, why you have hope. In a hopeless world, that's why it's found in 1 Peter 3:15, which says, but sanctify Christ as Lord in your hearts. It's right there. Always being ready to make a defense to everyone who asks. You give an account for the hope that is in you, yet with gentleness and reverence. Be ready. Be ready for those opportunities. Be ready for that referral when it comes. Can we give people the hope that is in us and give us an account, the word testimony, that is, to be able to explain everything that he's done for us? Or do we find more so that the credit really does lie with us? It's all what I have done and what I have accomplished, until some of that gets taken away. Could be my job, could be my health. And then we really realize how vulnerable we are. That it was God's grace that saw me through all of those opportunities. When the blessings come from God, and there are those who have stopped and recognized it throughout the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, and others who have not. You can see it through all of the thousands of years that we have walked this earth. Some have believed it came from God, and others found more to trust in themselves. Great evidences of faith and unbelief in the same passages. Gideon, for example, who we studied in Bible class just a couple weeks ago, had to be shown that after the thousands of soldiers that showed up to battle over Midian, only 300 would remain by God's count and go in and fight a winning battle because of God, to show the people that God was going to win the battle, not the 32,000 that had showed up. It was his purpose to show that. Joshua and the walls of Jericho. And these were given so that all would see who ultimately was fighting the battles. The manna and the water in the desert. And yet there were those who died while wandering in the 40 years as they grumbled and complained and didn't believe God was taking care of their needs, but instead was taking out there to die. That's what they told Moses. You've just taken us out of, yeah, sure, we were under a captivity, but at least I got leeks and onions and I got stuff that I enjoyed to eat. Certainly you've just taken us out here to a desert to die. And he took them out to the desert to say, do you trust me? Here's your daily bread. Here's the water that's you're needing. I am that living bread. I am that living water. That's translated all right back into the New Testament. Same for us today, as we don't really supply manna outside of our door. But it's the spiritual food that we are to ingest. And with Gideon, even after the defeat of the enemy, was asked for he and his son to be king because of what they had done. And he told the people it was by God's hand. Judges 8:22 and 23 says, Then the men of Israel said to Gideon, Rule over us, both you and your son, also your son's son, for you have delivered us from the hand of Midian. But Gideon said to them, I will not rule over you, nor shall my son rule over you. The Lord shall rule over you. See, Gideon got it. He knew who was behind the victory. Moses gave the example of not taking God up on his offer to stand back and let him wipe out of all of those people, and in turn would make Moses a great nation. We talked a little bit about that today, and we've used these illustrations before. To have a heart of Moses, to be able to say that, not take God up on his offer. As we see that Jonah, this morning in class, we talked about, wanted to go the other way because he wanted those people to perish. He wasn't going to stand in front of any of that. When God says, don't count yourself to the Israelite nation, so you don't grow confident with who? With yourself and with your numbers, what did they do? They had a census to see how many they were. God says, don't count yourself. I'll take care of you. Oh, no, we got to know. We just have to know. They did it anyway. You don't need a king. Oh, yeah, we need a king. We need to be like all of our other nations around. I'm your king. So all of these examples given in our life that people will respond to be more frank, people will see what you and I truly believe, whether it's a conviction or not. And that really starts with me. It starts with you, because if you don't see a difference in your life, how would anyone else be able to see it? If you yourself can't see it. If you put more trust in yourself than God, then I say, then there lies the problem. It won't be able to show for others to see as it should. As we are to emulate, and then others see Christ living in us, and therefore bringing glory to the Father. See, we're only supposed to be a reflection. They're really supposed to see the true victory in our lives. It doesn't come from us of pulling ourselves up by the bootstraps and saying that this is what I've accomplished. The question you may ask yourself today is, has God truly made a difference in my life? In your prayer life, your faith, your everyday life, your walk? And maybe we don't use our faith as a referral because we may not have seen much of the difference that I'm talking about. Because someone is going to sit on the throne of your life, each and every one. Something or someone is going to sit in that throne. Who is it? It can be a someone. It can be a something. It can just be me. And we'll fill it up. If I've not put my full trust in God yet like I should, I may be running my life my way, could be our answer, as Frank Sinatra's song indicates. And until we all see that we are truly broken, it's the only way you come to the cross. It's the only way that we need continual advice from Christ and from His Word, is that I can't do it myself, and that we are broken, and I have a broken life without Him. Until we see that, we'll never see a need for a Savior. That's why there are so many good people, and that's how we say it, good people that walk the face of the earth that never will respond to the gospel because they were good people. Nothing wrong with their lives. Good citizens, paid their taxes, helped maybe the needy, helped the poor, did all of that. But see, they never saw their life as broken. They saw it was good. As I said this morning in the reference, there is none good, none righteous. But if we see it that way, then there's no need of a Savior. That's why a lot of people will reject the truth, because there's no need for a God in my life. My life is going quite fine. And my life is just that. It's my own. The reason it doesn't take much faith to do so much is that we have so little of it. See, when Peter wanted to exercise his own brash confidence in faith by asking God to command him to step out of the boat and walk on water, he did just that at the authority of God when He says, come. And he made it so, miraculously. And he took a few steps, and then what happened? He looked away, took his eyes off Christ. He saw the waves, he saw the wind, and he contemplated in his mind, I'm sure, all the impossibility of all of it. This is impossible. I can't not be walking on water. You're right. You can't. And down you go. It's only through Christ. We're not much different, and it doesn't take a lot of faith for us to even begin like Peter to get so confident with. It's when we're tested and we struggle And that's why when really huge calamities come in people's lives, people will walk away from God. Because they blame God and they say, how can you let this happen to me? How come I'm having to go through this right now? People get so discouraged if they are not at the pinnacle of spirituality. It starts out small. We're never going to get to that. As I mentioned this morning, as Paul says, I only just touched the hem of the garment. To add to our faith, as the disciples wanted the Lord to do for them. As they said, Lord, increase our faith. They already had faith. They walked with him. They left their occupations. They already had the starting basis like many of us do. But they wanted to go further. They wanted to increase their faith. And when we do that, we add perseverance. Because that's over and over and over again, and then adds steadfastness. That gets us to be long-lasting, because he that endureth till the end shall be saved, the Scripture points out. We can start out small. Jesus says it doesn't take much faith to accomplish great things for him. So we don't have to be looking for some pinnacle spirituality when we leave this building. Because as he told his disciples in Matthew 17, for truly I say to you, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible to you. Now, who's ready to raise their hand and say, I have faith as a mustard seed, that small faith, and I'm going to go out and tell Mount Scott to move 50 miles to the west? I don't think many of us are ready for that point yet. But yet he says, even if you just had that small of a faith, it says it will be done. How much faith? Very large faith? The faith of a mountain? The top of the pinnacle? The apostles of apostle? No, the faith the size of a mustard seed. And I brought this illustration up before, and that's small. If you and I can ever attain that, because if you've ever seen or held one in your hand, a small mustard seed, it's very small. It wants to roll right out of your hand. You have to let it rest in the cup in the palm of your hand to take a good look at it. It's even hard to pick up with your fingers because it's too small. You have those big meaty fingers get in the way of it. And since we don't do a lot of planting mustard seeds these days, how big is it? When you look it up, it's 1 to 2 millimeters. That's small. In fact, if you were to take a quarter and lay it on its side, the thickness of that quarter, which you know is not very big, would measure up to 2 millimeters. I said it's just in between that. So that's pretty small when you look at how big that is. That's not a descriptive word to compare. It's too small. Not until we get to pea size or quarter size or golf ball size that we do with our weather with hail. They don't ever say mustard size hail, mustard seed size hail. It wouldn't be anything. It wouldn't even be sleet. I don't even think it would really count. A little hard rain, I guess. And that's all that Jesus says, that even if you had that faith, even to come to that degree. And Jesus says the power of faith is so strong that you don't really, deep down, really have a biblical kind of faith like that, the size of a mustard seed. But if we did, you know what could happen? A lot of stuff. And that's how powerful faith is. We use some examples of man's inner faith that come up from time to time that do great things, and it makes the news. We call it determination stories. But what about great God faith stories? Don't see that as much, because most of us, myself included, don't get to mustard seed size. But we must at least try. And like Peter, fail and try again, and fail and try again. That's why we love Peter. Love his illustration. He just didn't walk out the boat, and then when he fell in the water, he said, well, I'm done with this. I'm a failure, and I'm just rejecting all of this. How bad did he feel, compounded with that failure, to deny his Lord and Savior not once but 3 times before the cock crowed, as Jesus prophesied to him that would happen? Did he get so dejected, and he said, I've rejected him once more, and I've not accepted all this, I'm just going to walk away from it all? No, God used him to preach one of the best first sermons on the day of Pentecost, where some 3,000 responded in that day alone. With those examples, see, we're in great company. They didn't get it all the time. They're always wrestling with who's going to be the greatest and who's going to sit at the right hand of God. I'm wondering now in hindsight, when they get to, from the New Testament, walking with Jesus, over to the day of Pentecost and after, I bet you they had some own reflections to go, boy, was I silly. I can't believe I asked that. You know what? I wish Jesus was here back again, because I wouldn't really wrestle with some of those things. I have some meatier questions to ask him now. See, that shows growth. Shows that they didn't stay where they once were. We also fail in the faith department, don't we? But we need to have some of those successes so then we can pass it along, so others may find the hope that is within us. With just a little we can share, and that's our spiritual referral, which we should be doing and have that ongoing, declaring the good news. So am I stretching out my faith? Am I sharing with everyone the hope that is found within me, that is in you? And when we start to see that happen, people will sit up and take notice, because it's such a difference. And they may come back. And they may come back and ask you a question later on, knowing of your faith. When they're weary, when they're at an impasse, and they need some spiritual guidance or help, they may come to you, because you had shown them that you had found hope in Jesus Christ. And will I already know what my referral will be when asked? I hope that that's been an encouragement to you, being that that's the society that we live in. People like to ask, and that really is an ultimate compliment too, by the way, if they ask you anything, because you mean something to them. Otherwise, they wouldn't ask. And they know that you have had experiences in any of these, from hair to mechanics to dentists to doctors. And it's the relationship that matters. And so when you give that to them, they take it. Take it for granted. I do with you. If I was to ask you on any of those questions that we asked about, I would have the confidence to be able to use someone that maybe I never had an area that I had to use. But let's be more about in the spiritual referral business for the glory to him. If we can be of any help to you, to be willing to pray with you and for you on whatever is going on in your life, or maybe you've never obeyed the gospel and we don't want to have an opportunity to go unnoticed, to say everything is ready and everything is prepared for this moment. Whatever your need is, if you have one, if you'll come now and make it known as we stand and as we sing.